Since we got back from the Ilkley Historic Rally event, it's been a busy few days. So Rogers P1800, engine's all running, and that's all ready to go. We just got to put on a few more miles onto that and sort out the air filter, and then that'll go out the door. And indeed, Roger's car gave us the opportunity to illustrate the problem with the P1800S fuel filler filling up with rainwater if the drain isn't maintained. So do have a look at that video on our Patreon site about maintaining the water drain in the P1800 fuel filler. So yep, so that up and running, very pleasing, very nice, very nice. Then on went Amy's car onto the ramps, which is the car we used up at Ilkley, up in Yorkshire. And that also has a video on Patreon specifically. About 3/4 of the way through the event, we discovered that the temperature was rising. It was throwing coolant into the engine bay. And so I've removed the cylinder head, and sadly, the head has 4 cracks in it. And this is a stock head, apart from being twin spring. It's not gas flowed or anything, so no metal has been removed from it. However, there are 4 cracks, one in each inlet tract between the tract and the water jacket. So right now we're working hard to find a replacement B20 cylinder head for Amy's car. There's a couple of other tasks to do as well, which are fairly easy, but our pressure point right now is finding a cylinder head for her. Then we got to Gareth's car, and all that was remaining on Gareth's car, because we should be out in this in a week's time on the Tour of Cheshire, although Gareth is muttering darkly about using the Porsche 924 that Simon Heath used to own. But I suspect we're going to be out in the trusty Amazon, which will be its last event before we do the RAC Rally of the Tests together. Now this was, the last task was simply to raise the rear suspension 5mm to accommodate the 2 spare wheels that we'll be using on the Rally of the Tests. So I printed 2 5mm spacers. They've gone in the bottom spring cup at the back. In doing so, the right hand support arm sheared, and this is a good opportunity to remind everyone that this early setup for the rear suspension, you do need to periodically check how much metal you've got left on the leading edge pin. So that's underneath the 2 donut bushes. And this can frequently lose millimeters of metal at this tapered point here, because they just seem to rot underneath the bush. So that's well worth checking periodically, probably every year if you don't know how old your support arms are, would be my advice, especially if you compete. What else did I do on Gareth's car? My other task was to reprint a new stopwatch holder, because at some point the car had got very hot inside during the summer and the old one had contracted a bit. So I've now printed it not in PLA but in PETG, which is more resilient to temperature changes. So there's my stopwatch. The reason I have a stopwatch as well as the clock is that because I run a Curta, more of which later, I run in centiminutes. That's 1/100th of a minute instead of seconds. So that's why I have to have that. And the only other thing I did was fit a hook to put my potty on. And for those who don't know what a potty, I'll also return to that topic as well in a minute. So really, this car's ready to go for the Cheshire. I'll be towing it up on Gareth's trailer on Friday morning and handing over, and then we'll be rallying all day Saturday. What else then? Okay, so let's have a quick look around Amy's 142 then, since we're talking about rallying. And okay, here's the nav desk. And we have a trip meter, so an adjustable calibration on the mileage here. This is the time of day clock and stopwatch as well. And the other navigator's kit down here, the adjustable footrest, so that the navigator's knees are at a nice angle to support the map board, which will contain typically, as well as having something firm to rest the map on, timing instructions and other notes. And this is made out of a fairly collapsible material here. You can see this laminate signage is what we use, because of course if you are in a incident with the undergrowth, then you don't want that jabbing into your ribs, so it just collapses. The other useful bits, particularly on night rally, this is called a potty, and it's a magnifying glass with lighting.
Can you put that on?
And if we look, for instance, here's the map, and if we then do that, so that's my potty, particularly helpful on night rallying, but to be honest, as age progresses with and my eyesight deteriorates, it becomes more and more useful in day events as well, sadly. So the public road side of the competition is all about maintaining specific average speeds and accommodating speed changes. The maximum allowable speed on the public road is 30 miles per hour average. So typically a section will vary between perhaps 15 miles an hour for very rough, very narrow sections to 30 miles an hour on open road. And it is a navigator's task to keep within 2 or 3 seconds if you want to be top 10 at any specific moment during that section. Now, most navigators use speed timetables. Some of us use a bit of kit called a Curta. This was designed during the war, actually designed whilst Mr. Curta was in concentration camps in was it Poland or Germany, one or the other. And it is basically a mechanical computer. And I set up the speed here on this index, and then each time I rotate the grinder here, it advances 0.1 of a mile and tells me what time I should expect. And the readout here is in decimal, i.e. centiminutes, and that's why I always need a clock that runs in hundredths of a minute. But most navigators run speed timetables which just run in seconds. There we go, that's a Curta. And what else do we have here? Well, on the event, we have a road book telling us, broadly speaking, where we need to be and when. This particular road book has the transport sections, so the road that we use between competitive sections. And then at the back we have the private land diagrams, and this is all about who is fastest wins. So these are sections in this particular event. A lot of the private land stuff was on the military ranges in Yorkshire, and great fun, rough, loose surfaces, and really good fun. So what else do we have? My maps. So they were on 2 maps last weekend. Can be more, can be less, and there you can see a public road competitive section that goes from here, slots left, slots right, a jiggle through a village, a jiggle a longest way round here. That's a black spot there, so we're not allowed to go there. So we have to go round it, down into here, and down to the finish. So those are my maps. And there's nothing much else to say, really.
This is quite nice, this diagram here.
Oh, sorry, yes. So the instruction, so the instructions to plot, for instance, here is one of the last instructions, and this is sort of looks very straightforward and is nicely subtle. These are indications on the Ordnance Survey map of how steep a hill is. So if you've got a steep hill, there will be, and downhill, it'll be that arrow, because we're going from left to right. That's a steep uphill, steep uphill, steep downhill, steep uphill. And so therefore you've got to find a route that goes from the start coordinate to the finish coordinate that involves exactly those gradients and no more. If there's another one in there, you've got the route wrong. And then it may have an instruction saying use NAM2. So let's have a look here. This is a picture of junctions. NAM means not as map. So the junction on the map is simply a T-junction. But in reality, it's actually like this. It has an island. And what it's saying is you must keep left by going the longest way round the triangle. So in other words, NAM2, not as map 2, to go left, we have to slot right, T-junction turn left, T-junction turn right. And that will be the correct route. And there will either be a marshal standing here or a code board to verify that you've used the right route. So there we go. That is our nav side. And is there anything else that I can point out to you there? Not really. This is where we spend days, or indeed, of course, on the London to Cape Town rally, 27 days sitting in here for between 8 and 12 hours a day. And so you want the car set up nicely. You really want it comfortable, a good environment to be in. You need storage for your bits of paper. And of course, in cold climes, you want a good heater as well. And of course, the 140 is lovely because in hot climes, it has those direct air vents just underneath here on the early 140. The later lost it. And those air vents throw huge amounts of cool air into the car. Well, there we go. Amy's rally car. That's it really for this week. I need to get on and make some progress with the workshop. We'll talk to you next week, where I shall be up in Cheshire on the Tour of Cheshire event run by Knutsford District Motor Club. Thank you.